people. So this is where it ended up yesterday, right?
Dalco spent several days eating and resting, preparing for the long journey ahead. On the third day, he pushed Merlin's raft into the river and began to sail toward its mouth. Merlin had told him that he would know he had arrived when the air grew warm, the grass beneath him turned a vibrant green, and countless mounds rose in the distance.
All right, so Dalco is on his way to find Dark Amon, right?
After several days, Dalco finally reached his destination. He was struck by the beauty of the place. The air was warm and the water cool and refreshing. But his joy was short-lived. Dark Amon's crows circled above, surveying the area. It would not be long before Dark Amon became aware of his presence. He had to move swiftly and keep to the shadow even though Dark Amon's powers might be weak.
All right, and this is where we start. So it's a brand new question, and it's one of those reverse questions where the examiner has given you the straight line, and it's your job to work backwards to get back the equation of the straight line. So when the examiner draws the straight line for you, remember, the equation of a straight line is what? Y is equal to mx plus c. And your job is to find m, and your job is to find c, where m is your gradient and c is your y-intercept. Last week, I showed you when you are finding m and c, always try to find m first and c what? Second. To do this, most of the times, you're going to have to start off by selecting 2 points on the line. So everyone sees the blue line over there. Of course, in the CXE exam, if you ask everyone to choose 2 points at the beginning of the or on the line, most likely everybody is going to choose 2 different points. But the good news is, even if you choose 2 different points to someone else, they will get the same answer at the end of the day. But I want everyone to have the same working today. So I'm going to choose this point here. All right, so we all have the same working. I'm going to choose this point, point A, and this looks like what? -3, 7. And I'm going to choose this point. You don't always have to choose the points at the beginning and the end of the line. Any 2 points on the line will do. This looks like 4, 1. I want everyone to choose my same points and work backwards and get the equation of that blue straight line. You have 5 minutes, right? So it's a revision question from last week. That's what we're starting off with. Good luck. So the 2 points I chose were A and B. Well, I'm going to choose A first. So we have x1 and we have y1. Making B what? x2 and y2. So according to this, we're going to replace y2 with how much? 1. Well, we have it here. You see the values here. y2 minus y1, which is 7. And then you have what? x2 minus x1. Now, you notice the formula comes with a minus sign. So I'm just saying sometimes, not all the time, sometimes 2 minus signs will touch. Let's see if that happens today. x2 is how much? x2 is 4. The formula comes with a minus sign. And x1, look at it. x1 is -3. I think 2 minus signs are going to touch today. So 1 minus 7 is -6. And 4 minus -3. 2 minus touch should give you a positive. So 4 plus 3 is 7. So the gradient is -6 divided by 7. I don't like decimals, so I'm fractions. So I'm going to put this as a decimal to 2 decimal places. 6 divided by 7 is, well, minus 0.86, right? This here is the gradient. Now, you have to round it off properly. Yeah? It's not minus 0.85. If it's it's minus 0.857. So we have to add 1 to the 5 to get 6. So this is what we know so far. The equation of a straight line is y is equal to mx plus c. It just seems that we found m, our gradient. So I'm going to erase m and put what we got for our gradient. How much did we get for our gradient again? Minus 0.86. We just need to find what now? C. I always find gradient first. That's the best thing to do. So now to find C, we choose any point. Well, I even have the instructions here. I left the instructions. The truth is, to find C, you could choose any point. You could choose point A or you could choose point B. Now, this is just me. I always look for the easier way out. If I'm allowed to choose any point, A or B, and if anyone given me the same answer, and I could choose the easier point, you know why today I would choose B? Because you notice all the values in B positive. Look, 4 and 1. Why go through the trouble of choosing A? A has a negative value. Nobody likes to deal with negative numbers. We have enough problems in life. So I'm going to choose B. I'm going to circle it here. So when I go to the equation, anywhere I see x, I'm going to replace it with 4. And anywhere I see a y, I'm going to replace it with 1. Replace y with 1. Replace x with 4. Let's take our time and multiply this out, right? 0.86 by 4. You get minus 3.44 plus c. We want to solve for c. So we throw across a minus. Remember, if we want to solve for c, we want to get c on one side and want everyone else on the other side. Throw across a minus, you're going to get what? A positive. So you're going to get 4.44, roughly that. So the final answer for the equation of a straight line, you can't leave the answer for m here and the answer for c down here. You have to write back the full thing like this. Y is equal to minus 0.86x. And how much did we get for C? 4.44. This is our final answer. That's the equation of that particular line. Now, a few things to note, right? If you use point A, you will get, I mean, because we rounded off, remember we round off this 0.86? If you use point A, because of rounding off, you'll get a real small, slightly different answer for C. You might get 4.42 or something like that. Don't let it bug you. Also, if you do not use M as exactly as how I have it, minus 0.86, if you decide to round it off to 0.9 or 0.85, you have to expect that your answer will look slightly different to mine. Okay? But look for your mistakes. Let me know when you're finished. You can probably just raise your hand when you're finished, and we'll move on to the next question. Right? Right? To figure out, right? You notice the y-intercept. If you could remember the y-intercept, the c value is where it crosses or slices the y-axis. Now look how this one is. This one slicing between 4 and 5. So someone asks, well, why we just didn't look at where it was cutting the y-axis? If you look at this, is your eye sensitive enough to realize it was 4.44? I know some people would have said this was 4.5, right? Or 4.5. To the naked eye, it looks like 4.5. Okay? But upon calculation, it showed it wasn't 4.5. It was 4.44. So it's always a good idea to calculate the C value rather than using your eyes. It's always better, right? because your eyes are not sensitive enough to figure out the exact value. Okay? Let's go. All right, so now we have a harder graph to draw. Look at this graph that we have to draw. First of all, when you don't need graph paper, right? You can just pay attention and help me calculate the values, right? So take down the question, right? Take down this question. Let's plot and draw the function minus 2y plus 4x equal to 8. And we want to kind of figure out what's the difference between this question and the previous question. Like what makes this question hard so far? The main difference is in the other questions, y, like if I ask you to draw this, right? Y is equal to 3x plus 6. It was actually minus 3x plus 6 last week, as far as I can remember. A lot of the times, when they ask you to draw a graph, any graph in the world, most of the times, y is already the subject, like y or fx is already the subject. And that's the normal way, and this is the advice. Whenever you have to draw any graph in the world, I don't care if it's CSEC, A-levels, or you're some kind of professor in university. When you have to draw a graph, make sure to make y the subject. That means y on one side and everyone else on the other side. And that's the trick in this particular question. When I gave you this question, y was not the subject. Look at it. You have minus 2y plus 4x on one side. To do this question, we're going to have to use our algebra skills, our transposing skills to get y on one side. So let's try that now. If we're making y the subject, who do we throw across first? You all want to take a shot at it? Make y the subject. Everyone should be able to make a decent attempt at making y the subject, as that was part of the homework when you had the algebra videos to watch. Give it a try, no? Even if I get wrong, still send the answer, right? Just try it. So I can't. So the first person, since we're trying to make y the subject, whoever is not touching y, we're supposed to throw them across first. Huh? So I would throw across the positive 4x first. So you have minus 2y is equal to 8 minus 4x. Now, it doesn't matter if the minus 4x comes before the 8. It really doesn't matter. The point is we have to throw across the positive 4x on the other side of the equal sign. But some people stopped over here by mistake. That can't be the end of the question. We're supposed to make who the subject? Why? We still have this annoying minus 2. This minus 2 is touching the y. He's a secret what? Multiply. Now you notice you have two things on this side, right? Remember, can you subtract 8 and 4x? The answer is no, because 8 doesn't have an x, but 4x does. You can't squish it together to get one answer. When you throw across this minus 2, who is a secret multiply, you have two items waiting here. Both of them get divided by minus 2. And remember, when you throw across a multiply, the sign does not change. The sign does not change. So it will remain minus 2. Now, there are two ways you could do this. You could draw one big divide sign, and when you throw across the minus 2, you throw it underneath the one big divide sign. Right? I just saying, right? And if you do that, it will be considered correct in the exam, right? It will be considered correct. But if you draw one big divide sign, doesn't that mean both of them get divided by 2, by minus 2? And look at 8 and 4. Isn't it real easy to divide 8 and 4 by -2? So instead of putting one big divide sign, right, I could just simply put a separate divide sign for everybody and divide them by what? -2. And then simplify it on the next one. Positive 8 divided by -2 is -4. -4 divided by -2 is +2. And don't forget to put the x. I would prefer this. That's just my preference. Because the only reason I divided both of them by 2 individually is because I realized 8 and 4 could be divided by -2 and give you really nice answers. Take down up to there. That's the better thing to do for this question, right? Right? Remember, when you throw across and multiply, you get a divide. Right. So here's what we have to do now. We're back to exactly where we were last week. We have the equation of a straight line. That's the green equation. And now we have to choose values for x and calculate values for what? Y. Let's choose some values for x together. Remember, in the CXC exam now, the examiner has already given the graph paper labeled with 1, 2, 3, and 4 and things. It got easier for you guys. So since we're choosing values for x, we have to choose values that could fit on the x-axis. My x-axis is going from -3 to 10. So let me help you choose the values. 0 is always a really good value to choose, right? You could choose -1, and I will choose 3. Let's choose those values. 0, -1, and 3. Now that we have chosen our values for x, you calculate the corresponding values for y, just like last week. Good luck. Right. So I'll do this one first. When x is 0. So, well, we can do this. I mean, I'm replacing x with 0 here. So 2 multiplied by 0 is 0. Plus -4 is -4. Right? So when x is 0, right, I'll put it here. -4 plus 2 by 0 is -4. For this one, we're replacing x with -1. -4 plus 2, and we're replacing this x with what? -1. 2 by -1 is -2. -4 minus 2 is -6. Right. Let's hope the next one fits. Run out of space, but I'll squeeze them in here. -4 plus 2. I'm replacing this x with 3. -4 plus 6 is +2. I think all of these values will fit. I think we have a good, we chose some lucky values there. I think all of them will fit. Now, here's what, I don't want nobody to plot this graph as yet, right? I want to try to predict how this graph will look. Remember, this is a straight line, right? Quick question, right? I just need to erase a few things here. Not too much. I'm not erasing the whole thing, right? Just this. This is clear up the mess now, right? Right. This graph here, remember the examiner started off with asking us to draw this equation, right? And then we decided to make who the subject? Y, under my advice. All straight lines have a gradient and a y-intercept. This equation, I want you all to tell me how much is the gradient, the m value, and how much is the c value. Because all straight lines must have a gradient and a y-intercept. See if you can reason it out for me. Most people get this particular question wrong. That's okay, still try. What's the gradient and y-intercept, your m and c value for the straight line? Right. So here's what the thing is, right? Remember the equation of any straight line. I just write in the back here is y is equal to mx plus c. Whoever is touching x is your gradient, and whoever is not touching x is your y-intercept. So normally, this is how people answer the question. The examiner asks me to draw this equation, right? Who is touching x? 4. So you will be quick to say your gradient is 4. And who is not touching x? Well, it looks like 8, right? So you might be quick to say your y-intercept is 8. But that would be wrong. Let me explain why. Whenever you are trying to identify your m and c values, your gradient and y-intercept, who must be the subject? You cannot go around identifying M and C until you make Y the subject. That's standard right throughout maths, okay? In this equation, the first equation, the one that the examiner started off with, is Y the subject? No, Y is not the subject. You can't be going around trying to identify M and C when Y is not the subject. But look at the green equation. The green equation, we made who the subject? We made Y the subject. So only then we can identify M and C. But people will still make a mistake. You notice in the general equation, M comes before C. So people will be quick to say M is minus 4 and C is 2. That would still be wrong. Because according to the general format, once Y is the subject, the person touching X is your gradient, and the person not touching X is your Y-intercept. You notice this kind of written backwards, a kind of reverse way. Who touching X? Positive 2. So your gradient is positive 2. And who not touching the X? Minus 4. So your M is 2 and C is minus 4. Let's predict how this graph will look. Will this graph be, before I plot it and draw it, will this graph be sloping upwards or will this graph be sloping downwards? What do you all think? How will this graph be sloping? Latoya, check it back, check it back. Guys, my gradient is positive 2. Look at it. My gradient is positive 2, not negative 2. Right. So since my gradient is positive 2, my graph will be sloping upwards. And where will it slice the y-axis? Minus 4. Let's see if my prediction is correct. My first point is what? I'm going to get some writing here. My first point is 0 minus 4. 0, and I go down to minus 4. This here is 0 minus 4. My next point is minus 1 minus 6. Minus 1, go down to minus 6. My last point is 3, 2. 3 on the x, 2 on the y. I bet you if I join those 3 points, look, bam, it's sloping upwards. And where's it slicing the y-axis? Isn't this the y-axis? Where it's slicing? Bam, it's slicing at minus 4. There's no way I'm wrong. I can leave this exam room feeling confident I got it correct because I predicted how it would look in my head, and then my drawing matched my prediction. I don't need to ask my friends what answer them get. They probably get wrong, right? I know I have it correct, right? Right, so I'll give you a minute to take down anything you want to, right? Feel free. All right, so let's see what's going on with the internet is running a bit slow, I'm realizing.
Suddenly, the ground split open and bony claws began to emerge. Dark Amen was summoning a small group of undead skeleton warriors intent on ending him. But Dalco, an exceptionally fearless warrior, charged into battle, swinging his battle axe with deadly precision. The skeleton warriors, however, were skilled fighters themselves, their brittle bones moving with eerie coordination as they met his assault.
Right. So Dalco is close to Dark Ammon's secret hideout. So Dark Ammon is, at the moment, he's really, he's defending his fortress. So he summons those skeleton warriors there. But Dalco, he isn't afraid.
The battle raged for several harrowing minutes, with Dalco narrowly avoiding decapitation more than once as the skeleton warriors struck with deadly precision. Yet his skill and fearlessness carried him through. One by one, the undead fell, their bones shattering under his relentless blows, until at last they lay broken across the ground. The eerie magical glow in their eyes dimmed and finally vanished, leaving only silence in the aftermath of the fight.
All right, so it seems Dalco has defeated some of Dark Ammon's warriors. I wonder what he will do next to get Dalco. Let's see what we have here. All right, so here we have just a revision question, right? I want to time you on this, right? The 2 points I want you to choose are these 2 points here. I'm going to tell you which 2 points to choose, right? This is going to be point A. He is 3, 2. And I'm going to ask you to choose this point, point B, 1 minus 2. I want you to work backwards as fast as you can and find the equation of that straight line. Find the equation of that straight line. I think 2 minutes should be sufficient time. I'm timing you guys, right? Let's see how fast you can do it. We can. So I'm going to choose point A first because A comes before B. So he is going to be x1 and the 2 is going to be y1. B is going to be x2 and y2. Let's throw it in the formula to find the gradient, right? I have plenty space up here. So the symbol for gradient is y is equal to, so it's m, sorry. So the formula says y2 minus y1. y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. y2 seems to be minus 2. The formula comes with a free minus sign here. y1 is 2. x2 is how much? 1. The formula comes with a free minus sign here, so I'll put it here. And x1 is 3. Let's work this out. Minus 2 is minus 4. 1 minus 3 is minus 2. The gradient is positive 2. Minus 4 divided by minus 2 is positive 2. So this is what we know so far. The equation of any straight line is y is equal to mx plus c. We just figured out Mr. Gradient. The gradient, letter m, is positive 2. So we throw away m and put 2. We just need to find Mr. C. To find C, we could choose any point. We could choose A or B. I'm going to choose A. Why? Because A only has positive values. I want to make my life easy. I want to choose B. B have a negative 2. And I'm going to get the same answer whether I choose A or B. Make life easy. So according to point A, x is 3. Look at it, x is 3. And according to point A, y is 2. So we're going to replace the y with 2 because that is what it says. Y is 2 and x is 3. 2 is equal to 2. Replace this x with 3. 2 by 3 is 6. We want to solve for C. We throw across minus 6. Sorry, positive 6. You get minus 6. So C is minus 4. Now here's the problem. A lot of people, let me tell you exactly what they type on the chat. Like if this is my chat here, this is how they send their final answer. They said M is 2 and C is minus 4. You will not get this correct in the exam. When they ask you to state the equation of the straight line, you have to write it back like this. You have to write M and C in its place. You have to write your final answer like this. Y is equal to 2x, and how much is C? -4. This is what you need to write on the chart for me. Y is equal to 2x minus 4. You can't leave M separately and C separately and expect me to imagine it like this. The final answer is Y is equal to 2x minus 4. Right? So right. Oh, I want to point out one thing, right? And there's a small error. Not error. Some people write the answer like this. Remember, Y is equal to MX plus C, right? So some people, they will replace the M with how much? 2, which is understandable. And the C, remember they got C as what? -4. So they leave it as positive -4. But you can't leave it like that. Remember, when a positive touches a negative, you ultimately get what? A negative. By leaving it as positive -4, you know what you're telling the examiner? That you are unaware that when a positive touches a negative, it boils down to a negative. You really don't want him to think that about you. Okay? Take down what you need to, right? C is -4, and guys, real people had +4. It's -4. It's not the same thing, right? All right. Jade, you saw your mistake. You had +5. Just making sure you saw your mistake. All right. So we need to discuss something here with regards to straight lines, right? All right. So we just did this question, by the way, right? And when I had asked you to work out the equation of this line, we got y is equal to 2x minus 4. That was the answer we just got. Remember the y-intercept, right? The y-intercept or c value is -4. I just want to spell it out. Y-intercept. And we know the y-intercept is where the graph cuts the y-axis. And of course, we could watch the equation and figure out the y, like y is equal to mx plus c. We know the c value is -4. But how do we figure out the x-intercept? Why do we talk so much about the y-intercept? How come nobody talks about the x-intercept, where the graph cuts the x-axis? We could clearly see it slices the x-axis at +2. It slices it at +2. But let's just say somebody was drinking coffee. Let me get something brownish here. Well, let's say it's black coffee. And they spill coffee here. Ugh. Right? So somebody now join class. And here's the question. For $1 million, can he figure out what the x-intercept is? Like, where would the graph cut the x-axis? I mean, he could watch the equation and figure out the y-intercept, but he getting the money for the x-intercept. Anytime you are trying to figure out where a graph cuts the x-axis, this is the instructions here. Let me read it back to you guys. To find the x-intercept, in other words, where it cuts the x-axis, just replace y with 0 and solve for x. All right, but let's follow those instructions. The instruction says, throw away Mr. Y and replace him with what? 0. All right. Throw away y, replace him with 0, and solve for x. Let's get x on one side and everyone else on the other side. X already on this side, so I'll just throw across -4 on the other side. When you throw across -4, and we will get +4, get rid of the 2. The 2 is a secret multiply. When you throw across a multiply, you get what? A divide. 4 divided by 2 is 2. See, we got the same answer. It cuts the x-axis at 2. I want everyone to take down this instruction for me. That's how you, and this is the heading here, finding the x-intercept. That is where it cuts the x-axis. All right. This is I love to teach this part of the topic, right? But a lot of people hate this. But I love to teach this. Get your calculator, guys. You won't be able to get this out without a calculator. And we're going to learn to find two things. Well, one at a time. We're going to learn to find the length of a line and then the midpoint of a line. You see some scary looking formulas there. One for length of a line and one for midpoint of a line. Take down this formula. Let's do the length first. Let me show you how to find the length of a line. And you have to be real careful. You see how this formula has a minus sign here and a minus sign here? Sometimes two minus signs will touch. You have to be on the lookout. When two minus signs touch, you're going to get what? A positive. Also, when you square anything in the world, you get a positive value. Anyway, everyone take down the formula only. There will be no need for graph paper at this point in time, right? There will be no need for graph paper. No need for graph paper. I just want you to draw a line, and I'm going to put the points at the beginning of the line and the end of the line. Now, if you're finding the length of a line, you have to use the point at the beginning and at the end. Point A is 5, 5. Point B, the end of the line, is 15, 20, right? You just draw a slanted line upwards, call the beginning of the line 5, 5, and the end of the line B, 15, 20. And we're going to find the length of that red line. All right. I want to point out, I know some people using the Sharp calculators, and I know some people using the Casio calculators, and some people have brands that no one has ever heard of. However, when you square anything in the world, you're supposed to get a positive value. So I just say, on the Sharp, well, all calculators, do me a favor. Like if you want to square -5, like you have -5 and you want to square it, most people will just type -5 and square. And you will think your calculator know what to do in. But when you're squaring a negative value, please put it in open and close brackets and then press square. That way, you can be sure your calculator will not make a mistake. -5 squared, I guarantee you, is positive 25, not negative 25. The Casio calculators have a habit. If you don't put the brackets, you will get negative 25 by mistake. Okay, so let's be careful about that, right? I just don't want for you all to fall for that trick. So anyway, let's find the length of this red line for me. You notice the length formula has things like x2 x1 and y2 and y1. I think you all know where we're getting the x2 and y2 thing from. Choose any point first. You can choose A or B. I'm going to choose A first. So A is x1 and x1 and y1. Right? Because I'm choosing everything in A first. Making by default B, x2 and y2. Everyone put it in for me. put x1, y1, and for b, x2 and y2. And guess what we're going to do? We're just going to throw it into the formula. I know you all give me a chance to answer about that square root sign, that big square root sign. I will show you how to deal with that just now. Don't worry, don't worry. Right. This huge square root sign. Please save that huge square root sign for last. Please do not press that square root sign at the beginning. Let's work out the inside piece first. You see this thing underneath the square root sign? Think of the square root sign as a roof on a house and everybody living underneath that roof. Forget the roof. Let's work on the people living underneath the roof. Let's start replacing some values here. x2 minus x1. Right? Let me just put this here. Right? And remember, the formula comes with a free minus sign here and a free minus sign. And this is a positive sign here in the middle of the two brackets. x2 minus x1. Where x2? x2 is 20. x1 is 5. No. Sorry, guys, I did it wrong there. x2 is 15. My mistake. x1 is 5. y2, where y2? y2 is 20. y1 is 5. Everyone take down up to there. We just replaced x2 and y2 with irrelevant numbers. Nothing drastic. Right? Let's simplify each bracket here. 15 minus 5 is 10. So we have 10 squared. And 20 minus 5 is 15. So that's 15 squared. Take that up to there. All we did was simplify the brackets. 15 minus 5 and 20 minus 5. Let's square each one. 10 squared is 100. I guess we all know that by now. 15 squared is, if you don't trust me, 15 squared is 225. You can check it on your calculator. Guess what we have to do with both of them now? Add it. 100 plus 225 is 325. Take them up to there. We're almost done. Right. And guess what we have to do now? Remember that square root sign I said leave for last? You see this 325? Finally, he gets square rooted. Everyone square root 325. Believe me, if you don't leave that square root for last at the end of the question, you're not going to get the same answer. Square root 325. And well, this goes without saying, go properly to 2 decimal places. Make sure you're seeing this on your calculator. The length of that line is 18.03, and you have to write the word units. The word units means that we don't know if we're measuring it in centimeters or meters now. So you just put the word units. 18.03 units. Make sure you physically see it on your calculator. Right. Now, this question was easy because 2 minus signs didn't touch, right? Look at A and B. Everything was nice, positive values. So it was an easy land. Right? Right. How about this? Let me see if I can trick you all a little bit. That green line, right? There's erasing this here, right? That green line. I want you all to find the length of that green line. I'll put in the values for you here, right? The beginning of the line, I'm going to call this is minus 520. And the end of the line is B. How much is the coordinates of that? That looks like 1525. Now be careful with this minus sign here. You notice this is minus 5. So I just telling you, minus signs usually give a little bit of problems. Just be on the lookout for it. Good luck. See if we could use the same formula to find the length of the green line. This came up. All right, let's clean up the screen here. All right, so we have 2 points as usual, a beginning and a end. So you're going to find x1 and y1 and whatnot. Now, once again, I'm going to choose point A first because in my head, I like choosing A before B, but that's how it appears in the alphabet. You don't have to, but it's convenient. Point A is x1 and y1. B is x2 and y2. Let's throw it into the formula. Right, let's put this here. I like to put everything here. Put my minus sign here, my minus sign here. X2 is 15. X1, look at it, huh? X, remember the formula come with a free minus sign when you buy it. And X1, look at it. It's not 5, but minus 5. So 2 minus signs going to touch there. Y2 is 25. Y1 is 20. 15 plus 5 is 20. So, and don't forget the little square there. 25 minus 20 is 5, and don't forget the square there. 20 squared is 400. 5 squared is 25. 400 plus 25 is 425. And what do we do last? Bam, square root. Let's square root that. You're getting 20.62, and you have to write the word units. Otherwise, you don't get full marks in the exam. Units. All right. So you know what I'm gonna make you do now, right? I'm gonna make you find the length of the blue line, right? Obviously. So I'm gonna put it in here for you. For the blue line, the beginning point is how much? Minus 10, 25, and the ending point B is 5 minus 10, right? 5 minus 10 minus 10. Right. Good luck with the blue line. Find the length of the blue line. All right, so let's go to our formula here. Right. I'm going to choose the top point first, right? So by now we know this is x1, this is y1, right? Below is x2 and y2, right? X2, well, we'll put a free minus signs over here. X2 is 5, x1 is minus 5, right? No, sir, minus, not minus 5, sorry. Minus 10, right? X1 is minus 10. Y2, where Y2? Y2 is minus 10 minus Y1. He's 20. 2 minus signs will touch here, so you'll get 15 squared. Minus 10 minus 20 is minus 30. Yeah? If you're minus 10 and then you're minus 20, you're going to get minus 30. Yeah? Right. 15 squared is 225. Minus 30 squared. I told you, I gotta be careful. When you're squaring something and it's negative, make sure and put the brackets. When you square minus 30, I guarantee you, you'll get 900. 225 plus 900 is 1125. And you have to square root that. And you go, what? How come I didn't get this one? Square 1125 to the power square root. Guys, this is what I am getting. I'm gonna double check my working, right? That's all. I'm checking my messages here. Real people got this wrong from what they're saying. That's all. I think I may have made a mistake. That's all. So a lot of people are telling me I made a mistake. Okay, that's how I made a mistake. Numbers. All right, to point out my mistake, I did make a mistake. Y1, right, is 25. I put 20. So I'm going to replace it with 25. So minus 10 minus 5 is minus 35. Minus 35 squared is 1225. So if I add that to 225, I am getting 1450. And when I square root that, I'm getting the answer a lot of people get to the 8.08 units. That'll teach me for having so much numbers at the same time on the screen. So just to make sure I make no more mistakes, I'm going to erase everything. Zip, right? Bam. Let's start fresh. When you're finding the middle of a line, right? Let's say the red line. Let's start back with the red line. The red line has a beginning. The beginning of the line is 8, 5, 5. And the end of the line is 15, 20. So we all know A, well, we could call it X1 and Y1, and X2 and Y2. The middle of this red line is somewhere here, right? I mean, we just averaging. Any middle of the line, if you're walking from A to B, any middle of the line is somewhere here, right? All middles must even has a X value and a Y value, right? And to find the midpoint X value, all you have to do is add the two X values, X1 and X2, 5 plus 15, and you divide it by 2. It's literally that simple. It's almost the same thing as yesterday in the Monday class. Remember, when we're trying to find the middle of two values, we just add the two values and then divide by 2. But you gotta be careful, huh? If you're using a calculator. Like, if I want to find the middle value and the X value is 5 and 15, I said, take 5, add it to 15, and then you divide it by 2. If you type it in like this on a calculator, you'll get it wrong. Huh? Make sure and put it in brackets and then divide by 2. Huh? So, according to the midpoint formula, to find the X coordinate, you add the two X coordinates. 5 plus 15 is 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10. To find the Y coordinate, you add the two Y coordinates. 5 plus 20 is 25. 25 divided by 2 is 12.5. It's literally that simple. Midpoint is a breeze compared to length. With that in mind, let's do the blue line first because we have some more space here, right? For the blue line, the beginner's point, A, is minus 10, 25. And the ending point is 5 minus 10. You think you all could find the midpoint of the blue line? I mean, on average, the midpoint looking somewhere here, right? Get the X and Y coordinate of the midpoint of the blue line. For the blue line, I'll put the values up here, right? Let's erase this so we have no clutter. Right. So to calculate this one, this is X1, this is X2. Minus 10 plus 5, and we divide it by 2. Minus 10 plus 5 is minus 5. Minus 5 divided by 2 is minus 2.5. Then for this one here, the Y coordinate, he is Y1 and he is Y2. 25 plus minus 10 divided by 2. Because you have to add, right? But one of them is a negative. When a plus and a minus meet, you get a minus. 25 minus 10 is 15. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. Look for your mistakes, look for your mistakes, right? Right? What work till I get? If I get it wrong, it's not a problem, right? But I suspect a lot of people not putting the top in brackets. Like when you're saying 25 minus 10, you have to put it in brackets, right? Right. Find the midpoint of the green line now, right? I think we get this one is easy, right? So I'll erase that there. This is minus 5, 20, 15, 25. Find the midpoint of the green line. I guess it will be somewhere here. For the green one, you're adding the two x values. I put it in green, right? So you're adding it, right? Minus 5 plus 15 is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Then add the 20 and 25. 20 plus 25 is 45. 45 divided by 2 is 22.5. Aim for my answers. Aim for it, right? Just checking to see how much people could have gotten this one correct. Right. All right. So Darkamon is desperate now, right? Remember, Dalko defeated some of his warriors. Let's see where this goes.
Realizing his power was waning, Dark Amun resorted to a different strategy. He would prey upon Dalko's hunger. With a flick of his hand, he conjured a cluster of mushrooms, their caps appearing innocent and edible, though deadly in truth. Even the greatest warriors must eat, and Dalko, weary and famished, plucked a few to satisfy his hunger. Almost immediately, he felt the treachery of the spell. His vision blurred, darkness creeping in from the edges, while his limbs grew heavy and unresponsive. His body went rigid, then slack, and he collapsed to the ground, unable to move.
All right, so Dark Amon summoned some magic mushrooms. Dalko took the bait, ate them. Well, let's see what happens. He got weak, well, we know what happens. And that's him there. He's paralyzed on the ground, or partially paralyzed, and he's blind, right?
Seizing the moment, Dark Amen unleashed his magic once more, raising a new group of skeleton warriors from the earth. Dalko's remaining vision flickered and dimmed, and through the haze he saw a shadowy skeleton warrior lunging toward him, weapon raised, intent on delivering the final fatal strike.
Right. I don't know if you all remember this from yesterday. Merlin had given him a potion to drink that could help him in situations like this. But Dalko has a problem. He's paralyzed. He can't even reach the potion to revive himself. And unfortunately, it fades to darkness from that point. All right. So I know you guys are tired, right? We only have about 5 minutes again, okay? So I'm not going to put you through this torture. So for those, I know some of y'all want to know how the story ends. For those who just want to see how the story ends, stay back for 2 minutes. I know for those who just too tired, I know some of you are too tired. You're free to leave. And of course, thanks for coming out to class. And I'll see you all on Monday, right, for maths. Okay? All right, so let's see the end of the story here. Oh, we know Dalko can't die, right? We can't let him die, right? That would just be too. So Dalko awakes. He wakes up.
Dalko finally awoke, unsure how many days or nights had passed. Dazed and disoriented, he struggled to his feet and staggered a short distance. There on the ground lay the skeleton warriors, completely shattered and lifeless. Someone had clearly intervened to save his life, yet left him abandoned on the grass. Who had done this and why?
It seems that when he was unconscious or whatever, somebody jumped in and fought the battle for him and saved him, but they left him there to die. Still, well, hoping that he would recover, I guess.
Dalco made camp among the mounds, weary from his trials. As he settled, his claw brushed against a folded scrap of parchment in his pocket. Unfurling it, he read, "We spared your life when death's hand was near as the skeleton host closed in. After the battle we feared you would not endure. Dark Amen has fled, his trail lost to shadow. Should you find strength again, journey southeast to the sea and seek the names of the Red Adder and Freya. The people there also war against the darkness and would welcome an ally in their cause."
It seems that by a stroke of luck, right? Red Adder and Freya was passed by. It saved him just in time and left him. So Dalco, I hope he makes the right choice and still needs to meet Red Adder and Freya. Alright guys, so that's where our story ends for today. So have a good one.